There is a woman sitting alone beside a spring in the desert, and nobody in the world is looking for her. She's pregnant. She's exhausted. She's been walking south, toward Egypt, toward the only place that was ever home, because the household she lived in stopped seeing her as a person somewhere back down the road. Her feet are cut. Her water is almost gone, and she's decided that disappearing into the wilderness is better than one more day of being invisible. She doesn't know it yet, but in the next few minutes, she's going to do something no other human being does anywhere else in the entire Bible. Not Abraham, not Moses, not David, not a single prophet, just her. A runaway, a slave, a foreigner nobody was chasing. And the name she leaves behind out here in the sand is still on the map generations later. You know this feeling, even if you've never been near a desert. It's the feeling of being in a room and realizing no one would notice if you slipped out. It's doing the work that keeps a family or a job running and watching someone else get thanked for it. It's the ache of being useful to people who don't actually see you, who see the thing you do, not the person doing it. Some of you know the sharper version, the 3 a.m. version, the quiet, frightening thought that you could vanish and the world would simply close over the space where you used to be, like water. If that's you, or if it's ever been you, then this desert is where you want to be tonight. Because the woman at the spring feels exactly that. And what happens to her is the thing you've been needing someone to tell you. Her name is Hagar, and she's the only person in the whole Hebrew Bible who gives God a name. Sit with how strange that is. All through Scripture, God is the one who does the naming. He names the light. He names Abraham. He tells Moses what to call him. The direction always runs one way, down, from the throne to the person. Naming, in the ancient world, was an act of authority. You named what you owned. You named what was beneath you. A parent named a child. A king named a conquered city. The greater names the lesser. And the one time, the single time in the entire Hebrew Bible, that a human being turns that around and hands God a name, it isn't a patriarch or a priest. It's an Egyptian slave girl, pregnant and unwanted, sitting in the dirt at the end of her rope. Scholars who study the ancient world will tell you naming ran on power. To name something was to have standing over it, the strong naming the weak, the owner naming the owned. Which is what makes this scene almost break the rules. The person with the least power in the entire story, someone who by every measure of her world had no standing to name anything, looks up and names God himself. And God lets her. He doesn't correct her. He doesn't take it back. He receives a name from the one person nobody thought had the right to give one. That's not an accident. That's the point. Back up and see how she got here. Hagar is Egyptian. She's a slave in the household of Abram and Sarai, the great couple, the ones with the promise, the ones God has staked the whole future on. But the promise involves a child. And the child isn't coming, and Sarai is old and tired of waiting. So Sarai does what people in that world did. She hands her slave to her husband as a surrogate. Hagar has no say in this. Nobody asks the girl anything. She's a body that might solve someone else's problem. And it works in the cruelest way. Hagar gets pregnant, and the moment she does, the fragile peace in that tent shatters. There's friction, there's contempt, there's blame flying in both directions. Sarai turns hard, and Hagar runs. Notice what she is in this scene. She's a means to an end. She's the solution to somebody else's disappointment, and once she's served her purpose, she's a problem to be managed. Nobody in that tent is asking what it's like to be her. She has a body that's useful and a heart nobody's checked on. And I think a lot of you know that exact location. Being the one who holds things together for people who have never once wondered how you're actually doing. She runs down the road to Shur. Now that detail matters because the road to Shur is the desert highway that runs from Canaan back toward Egypt. She isn't wandering, she's going home. She's aiming for the one place on earth where she wasn't a spare part in someone else's story. She'd rather take her chances in open desert than stay one more hour where she isn't seen. That's how far gone she is. She's not looking for God, she's looking for the exit. And here's the first turn. She doesn't find God. God finds her. The text says the angel of the Lord found her beside a spring of water in the wilderness, on the road to Shur. This is, as far as we can tell, the very first time this messenger of the Lord appears anywhere in the Bible. And he doesn't appear to Abram, the man with the covenant. He appears out here, to the woman with nothing, in the middle of nowhere, running the wrong way. And listen to how he opens. He calls her by name. Hagar, servant of Sarai. He knows her name. He knows her job. He knows exactly who she is and where she stands on the ladder. And he says it out loud, gently, the way you'd say someone's name to bring them back from the edge. Nobody had said her name like that in a long time. Then he tells her she's going to have a son, and he tells her what to call him. Ishmael. In Hebrew, Yishmael. It means God hears. And the reason he gives is simple and devastating. Because the Lord has heard your affliction. Heard it, not overlooked it, not filed it away, heard it. Think about what that does to a person who's convinced her suffering has been happening in a silent, empty universe. Every single time this woman says her boy's name for the rest of her life, Ishmael, Ishmael, come here, time to eat, she's going to be saying, out loud, God hears. Her son's name is a permanent receipt that her pain reached someone. So God has heard her. And now, in the next breath, she's going to discover he's also been doing the other thing, the whole time. Because this is where Hagar names him. She calls the Lord who spoke to her El Roi. El is simply God, and Roi, say it, Roi, is a form of the Hebrew verb ra'ah, which means to see. El Roi, the God who sees me. And here's where honest teaching has to slow down, because the Hebrew is doing more than one thing at once, and the translations know it. Some render her words, you are the God who sees me. Others go, you are a God of seeing. The Old King James has the plain, thou God seest me. And the old Jewish commentators split the very same way. Some heard the God of sight, some heard the God who appears, some heard the God I have seen. The grammar genuinely holds it open. And I don't want to flatten that, because the ambiguity is the beauty of it. The verse trembles between two truths and refuses to pick. God sees her, and she has seen God. Both, at once. The being seen and the seeing are wrapped around each other so tightly you can't pull them apart. Her very next line is one of the hardest half-sentences in the book of Genesis. Translators have wrestled with it for centuries. You'll find everything from, have I truly seen the one who sees me? To far stranger renderings, and scholars openly admit they're not certain. But under all the difficulty, the one thing everybody agrees on is the emotion. It's shock. It's a person stunned to still be breathing. She's been seen by God, really seen, all the way down, and she's lived to say so. Stop and feel the size of that. A slave, a foreigner, a pregnant girl who ran away to die in the sand. She just looked God in the face and gave him a name. And in every page that follows, across the whole rest of the Hebrew Bible, no one else ever does it again. The ache she carried in wasn't invisibility. It only felt like invisibility. She'd been seen the entire time. If this is the kind of thing you want more of, the text slowed down until you can feel what's actually in it. Take 1 second and subscribe, and leave a comment, even a single word. It genuinely is how these reach the next person who needs them. Now watch what she does with it, because she's not finished naming things. She names the well. The spring where all this happened. She gives it a name too. Bir Lahai Roi. The text tells us what it means. Well of the living one who sees me. It sat, we're told, between Kadesh and Bered, out in that same stretch of desert. Think about that. A woman the world treated as furniture just carved a sentence into the geography of the ancient Near East. The invisible one put a name on the map, and it stuck. People knew that well by that name for a long, long time after she was gone. She thought she was a nobody vanishing into the desert. She was actually founding a landmark. And that little verb she used, ra'ah, to see, it doesn't stay put either, because in Hebrew, seeing and providing are almost the same motion. To see to something is to take care of it. And 6 chapters later, on a mountain, a knife raised over a different sun, Abraham names another place from that very same root, Jehovah Jireh. The Lord will see, the Lord will provide. A ram in the thicket, right on time. Same verb. See, provide. Scripture is quietly telling you they're one act. The God who sees the person nobody's looking for is the God who sees to it. His noticing isn't passive. When God sees you, something starts moving. And once you've noticed what God did for one slave in one desert, you start seeing it get bigger. Fast forward a few centuries. A different wilderness, a different runaway. Moses this time, hiding out on the far side of nowhere. And a voice comes out of a burning bush. And the first thing it says about the people back in Egypt is that God has seen their affliction. Not a person now, a whole nation of them. The descendants of that same family, groaning under the whip. And God says, I have seen it. I have heard their cry. I know their suffering. It's the exact same instinct that met Hagar at the spring, just scaled up to the size of a people. One Egyptian slave, seen and heard in a desert. Then a nation of slaves, seen and heard and rescued. The seeing that found Hagar wasn't a one-time kindness to one forgotten woman. It's how this God moves through the whole story. He sees the ones at the bottom. He hears the ones nobody's recording. And then he does something about it. So when Hagar says El Roi, she's not just naming a private moment. She's the first person to put words to the thing this God will keep doing, over and over, all the way through the book. He sees the overlooked. Start there, and you'll recognize him everywhere. So let me bring this all the way home, to wherever you're sitting right now. If you've spent a long time feeling unseen, overlooked at work, unthanked at home, single in a crowd, grieving something no one else remembers, the story of Hagar isn't telling you to feel better and push through. It's telling you that the feeling of being invisible and the fact of being invisible are two completely different things, and that God specialized, from the very beginning, in the second one being false. And here's a piece of that I don't want you to miss, because people get it exactly backwards. Part of how God lets himself see you is through other people, being truly seen, letting a counselor into the room, telling a friend the real version, sitting in front of a doctor, letting a community actually know you. That is not weak faith. That is not you failing to just trust God harder. Look at the story. God's own instinct. The first thing he does is go find the woman at the end of her rope, say her name, and hear her out. Being found, being heard, being seen and helped, that's God's design, not a detour around it. If you're the person having the 3 a.m. thoughts, letting someone see you is not the opposite of faith. It might be the most faithful thing you do this year. God sent a messenger to a spring in the desert. Let yours in. There's a difference between being watched and being seen, and Hagar's name for God lands right on it. Picture a security camera in a train station. It's on. It's recording. 1,000 faces cross in front of it every hour, and it holds every one of them, and it knows not a single one. It sees everything and recognizes nobody. That's being watched. Now picture a mother standing on the same crowded platform, up on her toes, scanning that same river of faces. But she isn't taking in 1,000 people. She's looking for one. And when her eyes find the specific face she's been searching for, everything else blurs out and her whole body changes. That's being seen. El Roi is not the camera. Hagar didn't discover that God monitors the desert. She discovered that in the whole moving crowd of the world, his eyes were up, scanning, looking for her. Not surveillance, recognition. The God who's searching the platform for your face. Here's the part that stays with me. The name she gave outlived her. That's remarkable enough on its own. The runaway's word for God became a fixed point in the land. But it goes further, and this is the detail that gets me every time. Later in Genesis, when Isaac is grown, Isaac, the son of the promise, the long-awaited heir, the one the whole story was supposedly about, we're told where he was living. He settles down near a well called Bir Lahai Roi, the well of the living one who sees me. The place a discarded Egyptian slave named out of her own heartbreak becomes the home of the child of promise. Her word for God's care didn't just survive. It became somebody's address. The invisible woman's sentence about being seen turned into a place where the family of the promise lived. Nothing you feel about your own smallness gets the final say on what your life leaves behind. So here's who this God is. The God who found her at the spring when she was running the wrong way. The God who said her name when she thought she'd lost it. The God who heard the affliction and put it in a boy's name. The God who let a slave girl be the one and only person to ever name him. The God who let her scratch the living one who sees me into the map of the world. The God who, on a mountain, would show that the seeing and the providing were always the same hand. That is the God who sees you. Not the version of you that's useful. Not the you that finally has it together. You, right now, at the end of whatever road you're on, running whichever direction. His eyes are up. He's scanning the platform. And he's looking for your face. If this met you somewhere real, do the thing that helps it find the next person. Subscribe, leave one word in the comments, and send it to someone you know who's been feeling unseen lately. And if you would, keep us in your prayers. May the God who saw a runaway in the desert and never once looked away, El Roi, the God who sees you, find you exactly where you're standing tonight and let you know you were never invisible. God bless you.